All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bad Light Gamer, with my co-host Glue Boy,
Hello.
and it's a wild time to be a tabletop gamer. I'll tell you, it's it's also a wild time for me to be a dad, if I'm going to be completely honest, because I'm so busy and I have no ability to be this busy, honestly. Like, it's so hard for me to get content out because I have a baby I have to watch all the time. So, kudos to my wife who's been watching our daughter for her on her days off so I can make content, because without her, I would not have been able to make as many videos as I have.
Yeah, it's a big course load you now got, and like it's the perils of doing variety content as well. Because if you just did Pathfinder, easy money. Then like, oh yeah, you cover some Starfinder stuff too, sweet. But also with the Cosmere on top of it,
Yeah.
like God. So like,
Yeah.
so sick. Both of these games are sick.
Everything is sick. It's Battle Cry is really good too. But so if you are coming into one of these streams for the first time or watching this post the fact for the first time, just know we get normally to the main topic around the 25-minute mark. So if you want to skip till then, go ahead. But before we really dip into anything, and while we're waiting for people to jump into the chat here, Alex, what have you been up to?
I finally did it. I finally finished my World War II video in World of Darkness, and it's going live tomorrow morning. I got it live for my channel members. And I'm also really happy that this video did not get demonetized. This is like the one where I'm like, if it's going to get demonetized, it's gonna be this one. Because, like, I gotta talk about a lot of subjects YouTube doesn't like.
Yeah.
I gotta mention a lot of figures YouTube doesn't like, because they're very relevant. So it's a bit. I'm excited. I'm excited that it's gonna go out. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. It's insane. There's a lot of fun blending of history that I think is really funny, because it's what you can do with a secret world, somewhat alt history setting, where you can be like, yeah, fun fact, in real life, like for real, the Nazis were like super into esotericism, and
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to do some like weird shit. Granted, it's not like they were fully out there casting spells, but the Nazis are one of the originating points of the ancient civilization, like lost ancient civilization conspiracy. That like they were one of the creators of that conspiracy. Um, and like where it spread out the most from them. And then World of Darkness, they're like, no, they're fucking casting spells, dog. They were summoning spirits from Atlantis. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool, man.
Also, thank you, Arthur, for the sub. We appreciate you. And Andrew, probably won't be talking too much about Cosmere this week. We have another stream next week that we're going to be covering that. So stay tuned for that, which is why we're actually not talking about it today.
Yeah. Like, and also, there's just, if we were talking about every single thing that dropped in these past 2 days, I think that, like, it's a disservice. We got to separate them out a little bit.
True. Though we may end up talking about the Cosmere, because I think the Cosmere RPG is also really sick. And, like, the more I
Yes.
read into it, especially for these videos, because with these videos I have a lot more of, like, a structured look at some of these things, the more I just think the system is going to become like my new favorite system. It's really, really
Oh,
good.
shit. I am probably hold it for a bit, but I'm genuinely curious. Now I have some questions, some Cosmere questions.
Yeah, like about the Cosmere
I'm
RPG or
just
the setting.
the RPG. Like I'm just wondering. We can hold it for later, but I'm just wondering like what's the big standout bit so far? Like what is the one that's giving you the most like oh shit? Like this game's cooking with like what it's working with its mechanics.
I think so. Here's the thing, right? I don't think the Cosmere RPG has anywhere near a in-depth or well fleshed out combat system as Pathfinder. I'll state that
Oh no,
first and foremost.
I like what they're doing, but it's I mean it's kind of standard tabletop like D&D combat with like a
Yeah.
lot of different actions you can take.
Yeah.
But like Pathfinder is the crunchy shit.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say that first and foremost. So that's what you like about tabletop. You like the in-depth, crunchier, more dynamic, more tactical combat. Pathfinder is definitely going to be the game for you. But the thing I am really liking about Cosmere is the ability to actually engineer a story for your character with your build, probably better than any other kind of game. Or at least a lot of them. And,
I agree.
And what I mean by that is the heroic paths have certain kind of like narrative flares to it, but they also have very mechanical things and are very interesting. And the way that they're designed makes for very interesting characters. The Scholar Path surprisingly has a lot of very high defensive actions that really represent your character's ability to like think and be strategic in combat and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
if you're
It's
like a pure warrior character, you still might want to dip into the Scholar Strategist route a little bit to make your character much more defensive in addition to what you get from warrior normally.
Yeah, like I did because we did our playtest, and you'll see it now. The kind of revised version I have for my character I'm gonna be playing in our upcoming game. Who was I was planning on going into like warrior scholar and then doing the radiant path stuff, but as I played the game, adjusted it, and now I've gone fully into scholar strategist. It fits the character way more of the story of a guy who he's read a lot about the military. He's practiced, but he's not like a soldier. He's never been there. He went to officer school. And like, I think that point of like it telling a story with its mechanics, I memed about it a little bit in our Discord, but like, I really like the ability mind and body, where you get, now you can use your erudition, your like expertise bump on physical skills. And that, which I like as a concept of like, yeah, your character is both physically trained, but also is really knowledgeable on technique. So like you've read a lot of like manuals of sword fighting and all that, so you can put that into like weapons. And then the fact that it's there's the ability for until you take your turn in a round, all your defenses are +2.
Yep.
Which immediately builds like the mechanical narrative of I am playing a kind of slow analysis style character. I'm watching, finding the opening, and then I'm going for it. Like that's honestly I like Pathfinder a lot. I love it. But I think this is such a phenomenal mechanical expression of playing an intelligent fighter.
Yes.
That more than I've ever felt in Pathfinder.
And it's funny too that Scholar can technically just be better with weapons than Warrior can, which is great.
Yeah, I have the game keeps like trying to give me weapon expertise, and I'm like, I only need the one. I'm only gonna use longsword.
Yeah, though I will state as well, combat training, which is in Warrior and Hunter, not in Scholar, is objectively like very necessary for a lot of melee style builds because you can just graze as for free without spending focus, which just means that no matter what, you're dealing damage every round.
Which I am holding to see if that's something I grab, only because like the character story and the Radiant story, I'm like, would that be fitting for him? A character striving for perfection, like having free graze. You can flavor it all you want, but it's like, I feel like if he knew the mechanics of it, he would be like, no, if I hit, I hit. If I miss, I fucked up and I need to adjust. So I'm really tempted either way. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's too many cool things, and that I have to drop some like objectively cool shit on the side so I can get the others.
And that's
the
actually
problem.
And that's something I actually really like about the game. We kind of had a discussion about it when we did the playtest, when we did the Bridge 9 game, about it feeling like you didn't get enough talents to get all like your radiant stuff and whatever. And it wasn't Bridge 9, it was a different playtest we did after that, a little higher level one. But
Yeah.
it didn't feel like you could get enough. And so at the time I mentioned that, oh, well, maybe you can just get those talents through the reward system. But then I was talking with one of the developers of Foundry, which, by the way, if you don't know, I'm actually working with the official Foundry team for the Cosmere RPG.
Holy shit.
A live play is coming out tomorrow with me and a bunch of other content creators.
Yeah.
So that's going to be super duper cool. And he was saying, like, the thing that makes this game special and unique is it's not about your build. Your build plays a big part in it, but what matters is what choices you make for your character's story. So the fact that a lot of things are really, really good, but because it's limited, because you only get essentially one talent per level, you have to make choices on how you're going to want to play the game, because there are some talents that are really, really good. And like I said, combat training is almost necessary for combat orientated characters, but that means that that you're dipping into warrior, which is a level in itself, and then you get combat training, which is 2 levels just to get that one thing. That is a choice you're making over something else that you might think fits your character's narrative better or whatever. So the fact that it's limited really forces each character to build very specifically for the route that you want to go.
And like being a human in the game, you actually get free talents incrementally as you go. And so it allows you to, like, you can do that. You can be like, all right, I get this thing at, like, I think it's level 1 and then 5, I think, are the 2 that I know of where you get a talent bump for being human. Something around there. But you take that and you can be like, all right, you know what? This is a really, like, optimal decision. It's just way too good. I'm playing a martial. I'm going to dip into warrior, my first thing, and then dip into that, the second thing. But then you also have to look at it, like I did, of, well, the problem is I could also go more into scholar and, like, go into something I feel fits the character a little more. And as someone who plays these games, like, I love me some builds, I love them. But a lot of times when I'm playing, I kind of just level as I go based on what the character is and what the story is. So, like, this game is going to let me do that a lot. It's going to really incentivize me to do that and make me make some hard decisions, which I'm excited for. I think it's going to be very cool. And I'm also just so pumped that, like, I'm playing a tabletop game of a setting in a world I, like, really enjoy.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's the thing about all of it, right? Is the game doesn't have as much of an emphasis on the combat part because it's a lot more of a narrative system and design. You can have very interesting combats. Don't get me wrong. You could have some sick combats. You can have some very interesting combats. The enemies in the game have some really cool abilities. And especially when they start opening up Cosmere to the other planets and the other worlds and stuff like that.
Fighting Allomancers is going to be wild.
Yeah, it's going to get even crazier, especially with some of the stuff that came out in Emberdark, that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to think that the stuff that in Emberdark is coming to the games eventually is insane. So
it's spooky. It also sounds hype as fuck to play like the future of the Cosmere in a tabletop game, because it's just so sick that, like, all these magic systems are essentially a science. So all these, like, big nations are going to become spacefaring and discovering that kind of thing through their magic. And we've already kind of seen how both big nations do it. So, it's gonna be pretty sick.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool. So that's the number one thing that has sold me, is that the builds, I've made interesting stories just with the builds, just because of what they can do, especially when you have the radiant paths, because your radiant path, like, I played in the live play. I was the only Radiant character to start out with. Technically, 2 characters became Radiants at the end of the adventure, but I got to play a Radiant. And I played an Edge Dancer. And Edge Dancer can be really, really good in combat with super high mobility and super slippery to handle. Or they can be like the healer, like a super healer. But you can only really go down one route to some degree. And, or at least for like a good portion of the game. So like over the course of your adventure, your initial choices and the initial paths that you really want to focus on are going to very heavily influence the game. And then once you kind of do that, you look into the other paths to kind of flesh out more of the kind of core direction you wanted to go. And, you know, if you look at the books, it makes a lot of sense. Kaladin, for instance, was essentially like a warrior. He was really, really good, talented in combat, talented at commanding. So he was a warrior / I think it's commander or tactician path. I can't remember. Not
and then
tactician.
probably dipped in Leadership. A little bit because he's also a surgeon.
Yeah,
well, trained in that.
And he was like, and to be fair, like during the core part of the game, and what I'm talking about is his main path is kind of that warrior route. And then he has a little bit into Scholar for the surgeon, and then he has a little bit into his Windrunner powers, because in all honesty, Kaladin is just a flyboy. Like, the biggest thing that he does with his Radiant powers is just fly, and fly well, and that's about it.
Yeah. He spec'd into flying, and then probably, if it's being expressed mechanically, the bond, the Squire, and like the Spren bond. Like those are the levels, but like, yeah, because meanwhile, like I'm gonna have to make this decision a lot of my own, but I only want like a little bit of transformation, because there's I really like Soulcast Defense. I think it's a really fun idea. Like, boom, let me just transform this element to something to block an attack, and then the one right after it, which is ranged defense, where you can do it to your friends. Like that is in character for him, but I also am taking all of the teleport. I'm becoming a full teleportation boy.
Yeah.
It's going to be very fun. And it's the part I also enjoy when it comes to the Radiants, because like on one hand, I'm like, man, it'd be very cool because I want more talents to play with. I want more toys. If like some of the Radiant stuff was free, but also that's part of the story of them, of playing a Radiant, is like you have to go all in on being a Radiant. And as such, you're just kind of left high and dry with what you're capable of the moment your magic runs out. That's just the bit. You're so used to using Stormlight that the moment it's out, you're like, ah, fuck. I'm just like, I don't know, I can fight good. And then meanwhile, you have your buddy who went full warrior, never a Radiant, is just kicking ass the whole time. They don't need magic to keep up.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, Radiants are more powerful. That's just how it is. You get magic powers. Yeah. You get the ability to just send people into the stratosphere with gravity. You know, it's hard to compare. But things like Shardblade and Shardplate can definitely level the playing field a good amount, mechanically and combat speaking. So, yeah. And to be fair, Andrew, as well, chronologically, that it might be true, but in a narrative, that part of his character sheet might not need to be expressed right away. So, the surgeon can actually come later as you're going as a reference to the character's backstory. It's like, you could say, oh, he always had this, but he never needed to use it up until this point. And that's something that I think people really miss out on when it comes to leveling your characters in any TTRPG. There's great ways you can kind of say, oh, my character always kind of knew this kind of thing, but it never needed to be used until this point in the story. And I don't
even think you need that as much. Like what you could say for Kaladin in particular, like until way later, kind of is he has a decent intelligence stat, so he got skill training, and then he has an expertise, and you can put that in medicine for surgery.
True.
Like that could just be it.
That's
like,
also
how you
true,
can express that. It would, if I'm trying to like map out the most lore accurate Kaladin Stormblessed stat sheet, I'd have to double check Surgeon to see if he just has done any of those abilities. But quite honestly, I think he'd be perfectly set just having intelligence and medicine. Like that properly shows off. Yeah, you were educated in this. Because I'm not going into full like a lore, like a full smart man scholar, but I have an expertise because my character is educated. He went to like Carbranth for their college.
Yeah.
And I have an expertise in ancient history because I decided I think Baranor is just a fan of that. I think he finds this personally interesting, and it's not related to his studies. It was just something he did to distract himself from studying military strategy. And like, that's what you can do. You can express lots of different ways.
And to be fair, Dead Phoenix, I'm going to be making a bunch of videos on it. I know people have already gone out and made system videos. In fact, Cosmere Horizons, a channel I worked with during this whole thing, has made a like introductory. It's probably a little too basic introductory, if I'm going to be honest, because he kind of just explains how a TTRPG works in general. But he goes into the basic mechanics. A lot of channels are coming out with how to play the Cosmere, which is why I just went straight into talking about the classes and why they're awesome, or at least
Demiplane has beginner rules out right now, so you can read at least a chunk of it. Because I know this only because I went to remake Baranor, and I'm not allowed to be from Carbranth anymore. It's locked out unless I buy the Demiplane access. Just because like it's not in one of the cultures in the playtest thing. So yeah,
I mean, you can in our game because we have all the stuff, but
yeah, it's not something we're like worried about. But yeah, I'm Vaden in the on Demiplane.
Yeah,
like if I have to. But yeah, like they have get started rules on Demiplane that you could go check out. I think even a PDF.
Does Carbranth have its own language, or do they just speak Vaden?
That is a fantastic question. I think they probably just speak Vaden.
That like I've been thinking about that a little bit, because that's kind of one of the weird parts about how some of these cultures work. Because Carbranth, I don't think has its own language, or maybe they do.
It is incredibly similar to Alethi and Vaden. Where all three, because Carbranth doesn't have a language, but the three are so similar, it's basically viewed as different dialects.
Yeah.
But the differences in the language is pronunciation and instead of vocabulary. So words are just all sounding different. With how close those three nations are, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but to be fair, because Vaden has been used to like to hide a discussion from an Alethi before, so they can't be that close. But anyway, and to be fair, we'll talk more about this in another video or another chat.
I'm just curious because I'm already on the copper mine. Oh, there's just two languages in Vaden. Like that's also what it is.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Okay. And see, to be fair, some of this lore stuff you can't know unless you watch all the FAQs with Brandon, because sometimes he just answers them somewhere else. So
exactly, it's and then also if you haven't read basically the entirety of the Cosmere, going to the good wiki, the Coppermind, never use fandom wiki. Ew. Everything is meticulously logged, but there's a lot of spoiler warnings.
Yeah.
I can now look through Coppermind very safely with no spoiler bombs. But yeah, because it's interesting. I like all those how good and sourced everything is. It's so nice and rare.
Yeah.
This is probably the best fandom wiki I have ever been on for is the Cosmere one. All the people doing it, huge kudos.
But yeah, we'll talk more about the Cosmere in a future video. I like I said, I'm not 100% sure it's going to replace my favorite TTRPG. That's still technically Pathfinder. And I say only technically because I haven't played Cosmere to know how I feel exactly about it.
Yeah, we have to like play it a bit more.
But my favorite TTRPG is in no way an indication how good a TTRPG is versus another. It's more just I like more Cosmere's overall like game direction than I do Pathfinder's for how we like to play, which is more narratively focused and more like we get excited making interesting builds for stories for our characters rather than making interesting builds just to see how high numbers we can hit.
Yeah, because like Pathfinder hits the itch I have to just play a good tactical game. Because I love me some games like that, especially like CRPGs. That's usually where I get my fix. Pathfinder lets me get it in tabletop, so it's a double whammy. The Cosmere looks like it is a game that's going to reward me for decisions I would have made otherwise, which is always my key kicker for a tabletop game if I like it, of just, I was going to do all this like fleshed out character work anyways. You're giving me mechanical ways to express it? Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. But let's talk Starfinder. So Starfinder is sick.
It's very cool.
I'm going to say straight up though, Starfinder and Pathfinder are balanced differently. I've been looking through the rules, and I'm going to say Starfinder characters inherently just have a little bit of extra strength over Pathfinder classes.
I would expect that and hope that.
Yeah. And they're balanced around some more specific types of things. And it's something that I'm still like, I only had the book for a little bit, like a week now. So I'm still working on just trying to get a feel for overall how the game is designed. But just looking at the classes face to face, it's very evident that Starfinder classes just have a bit of a bump more. Not an egregious one, I'm going to state, but a little bit. They're going to be a little bit stronger in some ways. And that's just how it is. So, the systems are compatible, but just be aware Starfinder classes are just designed for a different kind of game. So, but looking at them so far, it's been great. The Solarian video I made, which just released today, I want to play a Solarian. I think they're super cool. They have an aesthetic that is so sick. In addition, mechanically speaking, they're very intriguing and they're very interesting. And for someone like me specifically, they require more of my attention to get the most bang for their buck. Yeah,
they're like combo playing of doing this and then I get this thing and then I do this to switch to that thing. It looks like a very satisfying playstyle.
Yeah, but I do think the Solarian is going to be a bit of a noob trap because the cycle trait, I think, is just going to mess people up. People are going to unintentionally swap their attunement and then not get a feature they thought they were going to get when they make another attack or use another feature. Or like they have one of their feats. What's that one called? I think it's like gravity flight or something like that. Allows you to fly while you have graviton attunement. So, defy gravity. So there's going to be a lot of people who are just going to accidentally plummet out of the sky because they forgot that graviton was necessary for their flight. And that's going to be very unfortunate. So
yeah, I can see that happening.
I mean, like, I've seen similar stuff happen with using the kineticist, how the kineticist generally works, because they have some kind of similar design principles. So Solarian is just going to be a new trap because I think it's honestly one of the, like, at face value, coolest looking classes. I mean, it's just like being a Jedi, but better. But it's just a little bit more complicated than I think a lot of people are going to be comfortable working with. So we're going to see. And I already know people are going to start complaining. And I think I got a comment. I did get a comment kind of about it. People being upset that Solar Flare uses Dex to hit rather than Strength, even though it uses Strength for damage. I got a comment already today saying, why did they not give the class the chance to pick between Strength or Dex for their key attribute? Which, honestly, I can kind of agree with. But the class, I don't know. And the thing is, I'm not familiar enough with how the guns are going to work to really make a good judgment on how well Solar Flare is going to pair up against guns. So I don't even know if it would be a good idea to go a full Solar Flare build anyway, because guns might just be better range options overall. So if your focus is range, I think it's going to probably be not a Solarian.
Like, which funny enough, like Solarian to me, with what I've read, kind of feels like a kineticist. I think like I would be more interested in playing. I see the parts of kineticist that I've looked over and was like, yeah, that's cool. I just don't care that much about like the class style, and like there's not anything that jumps out at me to like really want to play it. Solarian takes a lot of that and packages it in a way that I think is more fun, like for my own taste. But on it, like also, yeah, as a gut reaction, I am sad that it's like it's got to be dex instead of picking, because my always go-to is, yeah, more choice is kind of a good thing, because maybe I want to play a really buff Solarian, but there's probably a reason for it that we would discover in playing the game. Or I would hope there's a reason.
Also, I'll make additional mention. The fact that Solarian doesn't get heavy armor training just at base and needs to pick up feet up for it feels kind of weird for a class that seems so orientated around being a melee class. So,
I mean, maybe that's just built in with the whole dex thing, because I'm not going to be going for massive, bulky, heavy armor if dex is a super high stat for me.
Well, and see, and that's the thing, right? Is that's I mentioned that before. Oh, they do have an Alien Archive book. Oh wait, no, is that is this the newest one? Or is that old? No, those are definitely old. Is there... Oh, they haven't updated the site for the Starfinder stuff yet.
That'll happen in a bit. And
I
know
okay, Alien Core. It's coming out in October. Okay. I really wanted to see the Alien Core because I want to know... Because one of the things I talk about repeatedly in the video is that it feels like, I mean, when you think about like fantasy star settings, right? Like sci-fi settings, you think guns, laser guns, all that kind of stuff. You don't think of people running into melee unless it's a very specific type of enemy, you know, like in Mass Effect, it's the Krogans. The Krogans are insane and run up, but even they have shotguns, really.
Yeah.
So I keep mentioning range, but I want to see if a good number of the enemies have range. But I just assume range is going to be a very major part of this system overall because that seems theme-wise appropriate, but I'm not sure. What's the damage on the player? Like, strength to damage is really good on range, especially if it's big thrown. But if the dice are just D4s, well, it's a D4 or it's a D6 and a D8. Well, I get it early, typically, so it'll probably be October for me.
Yeah, and I know around September is when the plan for like Star Builder is gonna be live, or Star Builder 2E. So I wouldn't be surprised if Archive of Nethys takes a little bit too.
Yeah,
it's a whole new game they got to put in. It's a little more work than a game expansion. Even like the remaster took them a bit because that's also a lot of effort. But like already, like the gun combat stuff seems really cool because the warrior really builds on it with its different fighting styles, where it's already mentioning like a lot of area attack stuff, which you know you can do with magic and other games, or like the suppressing fire is a mechanic that you can suppress an enemy with gunfire. So already it's I am also curious what lens it's going to be on when it comes to like the melee gun split, because usually for a sci-fi to have melee, there's got to be a reason for it, unless you're Warhammer, and then it's just because it looks cool. Because like Dune is the one I always think of when it comes to sci-fi melee, because it's baked into the lore of that world's technological development, that because those personal shields exist, melee had to come back.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing here, the laser rifle is probably going to be one of the de facto range weapons until they start adding a lot more. It does D8s. It has a magazine size of 10 charges, but it expends 2 charges per shot. So the way that kind of maths out is weird that they had added that way, but I don't know enough about it to really make a lot of judgment. But that's really good. Now we don't have the lethal. We have tech as a trait, but I think tech just means that it can be modified.
I'm just scrolling down. I just have to mention the art for the armor. Like, oh my god, all of these I'm looking at where I'm just like, oh, that's a character vibe. I like that. I like the 2 armor that looks like you're those frame silhouette characters in like Smash Bros. When you're fighting in the classic or like adventure mode. But like also the alien specific armor, that's fun.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing with the original Starfinder, was it wasn't a big class game. It was a big like race game. What species did you come from? And I think they're gonna bring that back, it seems like.
I am checking through the weapons because I'm so hopeful that it has a cool ass revolver. Let me be the gunslinger I want to be.
But I will say that the Solarian does have some really good feats for their, for the solar flare. And so who knows? Like I said, I am just using base knowledge I have from Pathfinder, from a system design that I'm familiar with, but we haven't played with it. The game hasn't been out to the public long enough for like all this stuff to be known. And there's not really a bunch of monsters to compare the stats to, because in the end of the day, right, monsters are definitely what you should rate character like stuff against, because that's what you're going to be fighting more often than not, which is why the comparisons people make between classes and their damage outputs make little sense, because you're not fighting other characters or anything like that. You are fighting monsters. And so, a 4 health goblin dies just as quickly to a firebolt as it does to a fighter's weapon swing. So, and that's of course like hyperbole, but what I'm just trying to state is people don't understand proper game design. Paizo understands proper game design, so I trust a lot of their overall decision making. So with that trust is why I'm looking at things the way they are and being like, okay, it seems like their design is moving in this way, which would make sense for how they are designed. So, but we'll see. I don't know. Also, I don't think it's a big problem if you are making a Solarian who wants to do melee and ranged, and your dex isn't +4.
Yeah.
Like even if both your stats were +3, I think that's fine too. But people are like, no, optimization. I have to have the biggest hit number possible.
Like that's always the go-to. Like my thought when I was dealing with Solarian, my thought was creating almost like a solar paladin like vibe, which is the heavy armor, heavy weapon kind of mental image. But it'd be interesting to see how that can really work, because
it can work really, really good.
Oh, I imagine.
because I've been thinking about that kind of too. I don't think you've watched my video yet, Alex, but I have not. They have a feat called Solar Wind, where you're in photon attunement, you gain a +10 circumstance bonus to your speed, which is really good, especially if you're going heavy armor. But more importantly, once per stride action, you can move through an enemy square with no problems.
Hell yeah.
So you just are disincorporate into like solar wind as you move across the battlefield, which is really good. You're also really fast. They even have a feat, I don't like it so much, it's called Flicker, where you get to take 2 step actions. And when you do so, if you're in photon stance, you leave like an after image in the space you initially were, so you can flank an enemy with yourself with your cool space magic. So
hell yeah, that's really sick. Honestly, I can see that coming up as a really fun solution for maybe a possible problem that happens in a game like this of what happens if I'm the only melee build surrounded by gunslingers? Like, what the fuck do I do? How do I get flanking? Well, flank with yourself, dog.
Yeah. And have I spoken anything about the murder in Metal City yet? No, but to be fair, I have so much on my plate that even if that was available to me, I probably wouldn't be looking at that for quite a while. I have Starfinder 2E coming out. I have Battle Cry just came out. By the way, I'm looking through Guardian now. I'm gonna have a video about that coming out either tomorrow or the day after. Guardian is really good. Guardian they made really, really good.
Good.
And then the Cosmere RPG, which that's also really good. So, but you know, that's the hard thing about Starfinder is it's very obviously balanced differently. And people are going to come with preconceptions from Pathfinder. People are going to make comparison between Starfinder classes and Starfinder classes. And it's going to be a mess. The forums are going to be terrible. So you know what? Just stay off Reddit. Stay off Reddit if you want to enjoy anything Paizo related for like the next 6 months. Because people are not going to shut up about small things that don't matter.
Yeah, or like if you're, in this community, go play Starfinder games instead of reading the summaries of people who are really thinking hard about playing it, but are never going to. So that's largely what the Reddit feels like it's full of.
Yeah, don't listen to tabletop cosplayers about what they think a game should or shouldn't be.
Like, what it matters is how a game feels at your table. Like, nothing else.
But I'm stoked. Starfinder is gonna be really cool, and to be fair, I think Starfinder is definitely gonna be a sci-fi that I can more get into, because I'm going to admit I'm a fantasy, like, I like my magics. Give me my space magics. I like Star Wars mostly for the Jedi and the Sith. Okay, I'm not playing to be no smuggler. I'm not playing Star Wars to be anything other than some space knight.
I can't believe you like the lamest parts of Star Wars.
You know what? I honestly probably would agree, but aesthetically and just by like preference style, it's just not what I like.
I say that because the smugglers and like that kind of space gunslinger thing is the only part of Star Wars I think is remotely interesting or cool. Everything else I just don't like. Cause like it's the part where I look at Starfinder and I'm like, yeah, it's hitting a lot more of these big sci-fi notes, which is not my favorite type of sci-fi, but it's hitting a lot of notes I really like. So I'll take it here.
Yeah. I think honestly, especially with like Star Wars Legends and everything like that, all the stuff that happens, that has now been retconned by Disney because, fuck Disney. I think a lot of the Force stuff is super interesting though. Like the Knights of the Old Republic stuff and talking about like Darth Revan and all that kind of stuff is actually super fascinating. I think that lore is really cool.
The eternal curse as a Star Wars hater to admit that everything the games did is really cool, because they did a lot of cool things. And like, at least so I can mourn the good parts of Legends, because I've looked into a lot of Legends stuff, and there's a lot of things that's probably for the better that Disney didn't bring in. They retconned, like, Han Solo fist fighting the giant space otter. That's a funny arc that happened in like a random book. Or the fact that the officers for the Empire, when they're in their deep meetings, would say bad tidings instead of good morning, which that one I like. I think that is really funny, because I can't say good morning, I'm a bad guy. What's the evil greeting I can give?
Yeah.
Like, I am already, while scrolling through the book, it's doing what I think a good tabletop game should do. It's jumping out images of what I want, where I 100% am going to play like a space smuggler gunslinger, because they have a rotating pistol, they have a revolver, which the traits for it look sick, and I can definitely create an operative with it's probably, which one was that? It was the skirmisher. Yeah, the skirmisher, that's where you're specializing in pistols, where like hell yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be a cool ass gunslinger with a sick like coat, and all I'm doing is just like kicking ass like up close. Let me do some gun fu.
Yeah.
I I do like the it's a level 2 feat for the operative. I really like kill steal. That is such a like funny feat. As a reaction, only requirement is that you're wielding a gun and it triggers when an ally ends their turn after hitting a creature 2 or more times or critting a creature. You fire a quick shot at a foe your ally is focusing their attacks on. You aim at the creature you're triggering ally hit and then make a ranged strike against that creature.
Also, I gotta say, right, and this may not necessarily apply to some of you here in chat, or maybe it does. I released the Cosmere video yesterday. People are like, oh yeah, this is cool, it's exciting. I released the Solarian video today. First comment, just a bunch of actuallys, and that trend has been continuing, and the like most comments are actuallys, and the video's been out for like an hour and a half.
Man.
Why do you think people hate just trying to look into TTRPG stuff? Because people are like this.
Actually, not even just tabletop. Why do you think Pathfinder has the image it has?
Right.
Like, it's because I see that so often of like Pathfinder fans are annoying. And then I'm like, well, no, not everyone. And then I immediately scroll down and see, well, it's because our game's better and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
See, that's why. I agree with you, but that's why.
Now, don't get me wrong. The person who corrected me on the Solarian spelling, which, by the way, I seen Dead Phoenix here. You misspelled it several times, too. But I totally get you because that's how it looks like it should be spelled. It's an A-N, not O-N.
You are a, I don't know what the word is for that suffix, like, but you are a denizen of the solar, a Solarian, which is like a totally fair misspelling. I think it's going to happen a lot.
Well, fair enough. I'm not calling you out because I did the same thing. But, like, I need to know that for the video title because people need to find the video that if they search it.
Yeah, like the strategy for YouTube stuff is you put the you do the title correctly, but you put all the really common misspellings in the tags.
Right. But I also say I love you, my actually viewers, mostly because you increase the engagement on my videos like 10 times more than the nice people do. So, you know, I appreciate you, but it's just funny to make mention of it because specifically speaking, it's a problem on a social level. It's not an algorithm problem, but it's a social problem, right? Like, especially because my videos are orientated more towards, especially Starfinder, for people who are just getting into the game for the first time, looking into the classes, because, you know, there's definitely probably going to be people out there who want to play a sci-fi, you know, fantasy game, and Starfinder is going to really hit that itch for them. And so I definitely orientate a lot of the way I speak and how I approach things from that direction. But the actuallys are just going to drive people away. Like, it's just going to make people not want to ask questions in the comments or anything. Because if the content creator themselves can't get away from the actuallys, then some person who doesn't know what's going on is going to be screwed. So
yeah, there's the eternal dance of it, because like there's the good version of that kind of community style and community culture, which is if you have a question, the community is right there, able to clear up everything about it. You'll be well informed, everyone's doing it well. The problem is, in all of the stuff I have covered, Pathfinder fans are probably the most fucking annoying about it. Like, it's always worded very annoyingly. You have more patience than me, because I would definitely be snippy with some people if they left this style of comments. I've seen on yours.
Trust me, I've thought about it more times than I should.
I can get away with it because I'm a lore channel, and I think if you're being a really good like source for players, it's better to have the image and just not engage. And not even for me, actually, it is just better not to engage. But God, Pathfinder fans, sometimes y'all are fucking annoying. I love this game though, and I love a lot of you. But oh man, just like be chill.
Yeah. So, it's I just find it funny because, like, of course, my channel's kind of getting like some much needed attention after being gone for the majority of 6 months. So I'm paying close attention to what people are saying or doing or whatever. And it was just a funny thing that I noticed. It's just like Cosmere. Everyone's like, "Oh, I can't wait to play this. This is gonna be really cool." And then immediately in the Starfinder video, just 3 messages instantly from the same person of actuallys.
You gotta, like, at some point in a random video, make a bait actually, where like you deliver something that's like technically wrong, and then like do that bit of pausing, looking at the camera.
And do a call out, yeah.
Yeah, like, I know you're typing right now.
Yeah. I think I've done that before.
Yeah.
It's just, it's too easy. It's too easy to anticipate. So, I'm glad people are excited about Starfinder, and if anything, these comments are just an indication that people are very, very excited about.
Excited enough to like absorb the rules that quickly.
Funny enough, some of the actuallys weren't even about the rules. So,
oh, fair.
Like, someone was telling me about the iconic, because, all right, so I called the iconic in the video Catboy with a midriff, right? And then someone...
I mean, are you wrong?
Yes, they go by they, them pronouns in their
fair enough.
Actual iconic. Right, but the thing is, I knew that. But I know most people, especially who are just getting into it, don't know that. And so it's a lot funnier to call them a cat boy with a midriff than cat person with a midriff. That's just what it is. And if Day was actually there, he wouldn't care. Nor do I care about the feelings of characters who don't exist. I respect pronouns, but that was not the point of that section of the video. The point was just to point out to people how cool he looks, and just iconically, the vibe of the character is just something that I think people will really like cling on to.
I like the iconics that they're showing off. Like the one for the Mystic, I think it's or the Witch Warper right at the end. God damn, this guy's so sick.
Yeah, I mean, Day is awesome. Day is my favorite so far. Just looks sick. Looks really cool. I love, like, character design wise, Day is probably like the best one I've seen in like any Paizo game. It's oozes aesthetic.
It's like power armor wizard robes. Like, already is a vibe. He's got the glowing purple. His staff is a fucking lantern. Bunch of, like, as you gotta do when it comes to sci-fi magic, he's got a bunch of wires sticking out of his head, plugged in around. It's so cool. I genuinely cannot determine which I'm going to play first. Am I going to play a Witch Warper, or am I going to play an Operative? Like,
yeah,
I want to play a precog really bad, because I love precog stuff.
So, but that's the thing, right? One, it's iconics. They almost never really talk too much about the iconics in the books themselves. They're usually like extra blogs to the side. And so, of course, most people who are going to pick up Starfinder for the first time are not going to know that Day prefers they, them pronouns. So, what does it matter, in all honesty? For a character who doesn't exist as a real person. Like, I have they, them friends. I have friends who have, different pronouns, and I completely respect that for sure. It's just, and to be fair, right, the message did not come across as accusatory or like witch hunty. So I appreciate that. It's just one of those things where, like, that's the level of fan that we have here for Starfinder. People who go and read the blogs, learn about the iconics, and then need to actually your video, for something that's obviously meant to be a joke, obviously meant to be something that's more low-hanging fruit for other people coming into the content. So
if anything, just the term like catboy, catgirl is just like a term for it, because like it's just the bit of like, yeah, respecting pronouns, sure, all that. But there's there's just like a term. There's the
They
term for
got a
like cat
vibe.
boy, cat girl, and like that's just the descriptor of it. I think
Yeah.
it's be an inherently different situation if the whole video you were just like really going in like, hey, look at this man, this guy. Like if that's inherently different.
I mean, I
Than
may have
like
said that a
what
few
you
times,
did.
but I wasn't like emphasizing, and I didn't mention
Yeah.
it too often because like
That's the I think the difference where I'd be like, okay, this is like a little, this is in bad taste, this is gross, because like it's a fictional character, no one's feelings are getting hurt, but you're being a dickhead, instead of like not knowing, not making a big deal of it, and also just using the word catboy. I think
yeah,
that's inherently different. Uh, and also it's just in watching your channel, I think it's really clear that you do respect a lot of that. If anything, it's like, yeah, fair, have it in the comments, have it peeked out. But if anyone reacts, I think a little bit more angrily, uh, they're being a little bit extra.
yeah.
They gotta like simmer.
And like I said, cat girl, cat boy, they have a vibe. People think certain
Yeah,
things when they hear these terms. Cat person, you start thinking about Khajiits in Elder Scrolls. You know,
yeah.
like,
Which there is a, I mean, like they are a lot more on the lens of like a cat person. But if
yeah,
you're trying to make a descriptor, like a quick descriptor thing, one works differently.
yeah. So, but I'll state here first and foremost, I totally understood. I knew beforehand too. It was something that was pointed out to me before. Was not the point. Was not the point of the statement or the whole bit really. And I think it's cool. Regardless, Day is really cool. A super cool character. I love the aesthetic. I gushed about the overall design quite a bit before continuing the video. So
It's just the designs are. I love these iconics. It's
yeah.
very cool. It's what iconic should be, and of course Pathfinder and like Paizo is always going to hit it out of the mark. I think literally the only misstep, in my opinion, is the Necromancer one, not making the lady with the giant bone scythe the iconic. I think that's the only misstep.
Yeah, yeah,
Because one of those characters is objectively cooler,
yeah,
and like I'm more interested in learning about.
yeah. So you know, but Starfinder is sick. I mean, if you love Pathfinder and you are looking to get into a more star-based system, then this is going to be the one for you. And like, in all honesty, they just are going to have different vibes and different kinds of stories. Like, you know, when you are playing in Pathfinder, your stories will typically be we're in like a small town out in the middle of nowhere. We're going through jungle or we're going through forests. We're going into deep caves and stuff like that. And when you play Starfinder, you're on ships. You're on, you know, chrome stations in space while like different virtual ladies are dancing on signs and places and stuff like that. Like they're just different in every way but mechanics, and I think it's going to be really fun. We'll probably do a Starfinder game at some point in the future.
I hope so.
I hope so too. It's just hard because tabletop takes a while, especially
Yeah,
because
like-
we're playing Stonewalkers, people I don't think people are going to want to stop after the first chapter.
Nope.
Or a second chapter technically.
I'll be like, I would just like it if this game was in our rotation. It's like, God, it's gonna be cool. It is actually like, it's like that reason, where is the reason I prefer sci-fi, like as a setting and as a like genre, because I just think sci-fi is an incredibly versatile genre where it can tell a lot of stories, and like you can do a lot of cool shit with like fantasy. And it's been done a lot of really interesting ways that I've seen, but I think you can just it hits harder for me with when it comes to narrative. I think you just tell so many cool ass stories with the varieties of situations you can get to in like a spacefaring thing.
Yeah.
You can have like the slower, more intimate information you get from like one city on a planet, like kind of like a cyberpunk thing. You can be like a full space adventurer vibe going in like fully uncolonized planets. There's really good options for sci-fi horror is a really versatile like thing to use. because like there's a lot of cosmic shit that's very spooky, and those vibes work really well for horror. So it's versatile. That's why I prefer it, and why like having a good sci-fi tabletop game has been something I've wanted for a long time.
Yeah. Also, thank you, Cara Crash, for the sub. We appreciate you. I don't know. I think it's got to be an aesthetic thing, because like I think especially with how fantasy does, you can have just as much versatility. You know, it's just rather than going to planets, you're going to other planes of existence with teleportation portals and all that kind of stuff. Less emphasis on the vehicles, which is fair, but more emphasis, like you can have similar types of horror, you know, in ways, especially when the two kind of meet in some places. But I think there should be more like sci-fi games out there, because I think there's definitely been like a call out for those things and people have been really wanting them. And unfortunately, most of the best sci-fi ones are either Star Wars or like something like Starfinder, right?
My pain. Fantasy Flight. My pain. Make the coolest like tabletop game ever, but tie it to the lamest setting in the world. Like I'm excited for this. And like, yeah, you can, like, fantasy is very versatile. It's purely like at that point it's a preference thing, because I just latch on way easier to sci-fi. My problem, because it's my problem with the Warhammer Fantasy, the AOS, because AOS does that. It keeps the scale really big by having like realms and like realm hopping, and always my problem is like this doesn't feel like a tangible location anymore.
Yeah.
Like with space, even though logically you're like kind of going out with this, space and like the space between dimensions and teleportation are objectively the same thing.
Yeah.
They serve the same purpose. It's giant empty like void that things happen. But my mind can connect to space better, I think, because space in like other planets are a real thing. So it's easier for me to like latch on to.
Sure.
And like
I don't think there's
not
anything
everyone's gonna have that. No, not at all. At the end of the day, it's like big preference. The only time it become a problem is if I was out here claiming fantasy is a worse genre for storytelling.
Right.
If anything, I have just found examples of sci-fi bending the genre better than I have a lot of contemporary fantasy stuff. But I have found a bunch of very recent fantasy novels that are doing this like genre blending super well. It's becoming a big thing in the past like decade. Cosmere, and then there's a couple others. There's one I need to read that's really sick. It's like a crime detective noir thing in a fantasy world, with like a little bit of like advanced tech. Like it's starting to develop, but the central crime is some guy was magically killed because a tree grew like through him, like inside of him, then sprouted rapidly. And like that's the core case of that this detective is trying to solve. And that book sounds so sick. I need to read it, because I found it only because someone recommended a book for me that had the same vibe as Mistborn Era 2. And so it's on my list.
All right, and here's a great opportunity to talk about this subject. So for Dead Phoenix and Stormlanders, Dead Phoenix says, wonder how many people will do crossover stuff. I imagine a lot of people, especially the ones not online, will just see it's compatible and say, ooh, I'll play a soldier in the Rise of the Runelords. And then Stormlord, hey gamer, what are your thoughts on cross compatibility? Would a monk in space be good, or would a melee operative just fit the bill better? So that is a layered question. Do you care about the numbers? Because if you do, I'm going to tell you right now that the Starfinder classes seem to be tuned a little bit stronger than Pathfinder classes. Could a monk do well in space? Potentially. ACs relatively should function mostly the same. And so as long as you are just aware that you're going into a setting where most enemies will have range to some degree, then you know, just be aware that your positioning is going to matter, and it doesn't really matter where on the battlefield you are. Unless you're behind cover, you're likely to get shot. And so that's a thing. But no class in Starfinder plays like monk or uses monk's mechanics at all. So if you enjoy how Monk plays, I don't think the statistic differences between the two systems is going to make you that much more worse off, other than just the fact that the game has a lot more ranged enemies. So melee positioning becomes more difficult because enemies have more reason to be spread out and just can hit you from more areas.
Operative gets +2. Oh no, they're broken.
I know.
Yeah, like it definitely seems, because the first thing I'm looking at with this stream was I was trying to see if there's any part of this book that talks about the compatibility. No, it just
Nope.
says that it's compatible.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a thing people are going to debate on, and hope it's going to happen on the Reddit. It's going to be like, this is way objectively better in Pathfinder than it is like this. Like when we're statting it all out in our heads doing the math.
No, you know, actually,
lame.
You know, it's going to be super cringe. People who are going to look at the two systems in GM Core. Is GM Core out or going to be out soon? Because I would also like to look at that. I don't think it was on my list of things to request though.
I could see it being in GM Core. That would make way more sense.
But anyway, the super cringe thing is people looking at these two systems and just be like, why don't in my Pathfinder games I just play Soldier more over Fighter? Because Soldier's just better. And so they're just gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna take the stronger classes in Starfinder and just bring them all to Pathfinder because they're stronger than Pathfinder classes.
That's lame. I think personally, as we've all like talked about our own thoughts with the compatibility, and I imagine you're going to reiterate again, I think they'd be a fun short campaign to do both sides. I think I'm inherently way more interested in the idea of a Pathfinder character being in a Starfinder game than I am vice versa. Because I think that is a more interesting fish out of water story that you can tell than the other version, which is like, oh, you're an exploration team and you found Galarian. Like, that's cool. That could be a fun story, like the story of blending in. But like, I think the fish out of water, oh fuck, like we were just on a planet fighting some like monsters, and now like we're on a starship. Like we saw those stars in the sky. We're there now. I think it's a really fun style, especially because of that melee disparity. Like that sounds like a fun thing to deal with as someone who like likes these games and wants that challenge. Like, yeah, I'm a fucking like champion, dog. I got a sword and shield. This dude's got a laser gun. Like that sounds like a fun challenge.
Well, yeah, and so and see, here's the magic of tabletop, right? The GM can just design the encounters to work with your Pathfinder characters. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It just maybe it's just one less enemy than normally would be for a Starfinder game. You know, that's completely fine. This is why actually I think I'm going to like Cosmere overall more, because the problem we're talking about right now purely comes from people arguing about numbers at such degrees that functionally don't matter. Yeah. Right? Because everything I talk about, I've said several times already, I don't think the statistical differences are going to be that much different that you're going to have that much worse of a time. And I stick by that overall statement. But people are going to care way more about that. And when we're talking Cosmere and when we're talking about how that game is going to run in general, like people are just going to be playing characters, doing things and telling a story about their character. There's no class comparisons because anyone can be anything if they really wanted to. Any character could just cross multipath into another path and get all the same things and all the same benefits. Like,
also talk about a game that's going to be cross compatible, but it's been built fully with the intent of being very cross compatible.
Yeah.
And both in the lore and the game. Like, I think it's going to handle that a lot better and more interestingly. The part I'm curious about when it comes to GM Core is just if Paizo noticed anything, if they did any play tests of like, here are the like in-house things we can tell you about how they're going to be different, how it's going to land. But if they also say like, because they shouldn't be balanced around Pathfinder, like it should be its own game.
Yeah.
But if they're like, oh yeah, like some of the Pathfinder classes, like the numbers are a little lower, we noticed that if you can want to do this just to help GMs make it flow better, like that's a cool tool to have. If it's a tool of like, this is something we noticed, here's ways to maybe address it, shrug, it's up to you though. That's the extent I think I want of compatibility rules.
Yeah,
because I think that just be a GM aid, and more GM aids the better. Because if the moment Starfinder is designed for Pathfinder, I'll be sad. Keep them different, keep them separate. I think a compatible campaign would be fun, but I wouldn't like it to be constant. I don't want it to just be like, oh yeah, like 100%. We got a bunch of Pathfinder shit running around in Starfinder and vice versa. I think that'd make the games a little worse.
Yeah. Starfinder is not an expansion to Pathfinder. That's overall my statement on the matter. Starfinder is its own game. They just have compatible systems, so you can do stuff, and mechanically speaking, you can overall make it work. But it's just like saying that the World of Darkness books are cross-compatible, because they are, but the systems definitely, or the different games definitely aren't. So,
like, yeah, you have to do some heavy lifting for everything to exist in the same World of Darkness, because like they technically do, and like if you take the word of all the books as written, like as completely true, and you can utilize like the rules and stuff for each other. It's just heavy lifting you have to figure out.
Yeah. So, hopefully that answers your question, Stormlord. I know it's not very satisfying, but, I'm here to give you the truth, not something that makes people feel better. So, I personally don't mind playing on a little bit of the back foot, as long as, one, the system isn't just straight up punishing me and making the game unfun for my choices, and two, my choices matter for my narrative, for my character. Like, I all the time I make characters with a +3 in their key attribute rather than +4, and that drives people insane in the space a lot of the time, because I'm just like, yeah, I get a free boost to this stat, so I might as well just use that somewhere else to round my character out to do more things, because I like to have a dynamic character who's multifaceted and does more things rather than be really, really good at one thing, and predominantly people prefer that's the hitting stat, and I'm just not so into hitting as much as everything else. I like a good combat, I like a good strategic combat, but me killing the enemy one round faster is typically not that big of an issue. If that was if the game was designed in a way where that's just the difference between life or death, then that's just not, then the game is forcing you to play more combat savvy than anything else, right? The fun of tabletop is you get an interesting adventure for your characters, and your GM has the ability to tweak the numbers so that the game is still challenging but doesn't break you if you didn't min-max. I don't know how people can't see that, how people can't understand that min-maxing isn't the only way to play the game.
Yeah, it's chill to min-max. It's if you're shitting on anyone else for like the decisions they make. So I will say I've never done the like my key stat is low. I've never done that. But also I've never found the reason to do that, because like it's never been part of the story. That like I've never had a reason when it comes to character creation to do it. I wouldn't be opposed. It hasn't come up yet.
To be fair, when I make characters, I usually try to optimize my core stat.
Yeah.
Usually. But sometimes I don't, because sometimes I choose not to. It's just...
Yeah, sometimes you're like, I kind of want to do this thing too. Oh, like, it's a bit of a stretch. Like, the stat's not going to be there right away, but like, whatever. Like
Because like
that's a decision that makes sense.
my alchemist I'm currently playing, I'm playing a mutagenous alchemist and kingmaker, and I didn't boost my intelligence to max because I wanted to boost my strength as much as possible, because I'm going to be using the bestial mutagen and running around and hitting people with my claws. That's the whole point of the build. So me having more intelligence really doesn't make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
But you know, but I do like, and again, like, it's always the thing I have to disclaim, right? Just because I'm saying min-maxing isn't the only way to play the game does not mean I hate the idea of maximizing your core stats or building optimally. I think you should build optimally, but I don't think you should only build optimally for combat. I think combat is not the only thing in the game. So, you know. Sometimes an optimization is allowing your character to do more things during the entirety of the campaign than just combat.
And I always think of it very targeted at the people on Reddit that I don't like.
Yeah.
Where it is the, like, you don't play this game and the only thing, like, you think about playing the game a lot. You don't, like, play it all the time. And then also the fact of, no, it doesn't need to be fully built this way. It can be built another way. It's, you know, a game of imagination. We can all make the fun decisions. Whenever I see the thread that's like, all right, for party comp, it needs to be these classes. Everything else is garbage, and they need to be built like this. I hate you. There's no other way around it. I hate you.
I will say that Phoenix Int is actually insane for Alchemist because it determines how many versatile vials you have, which is a huge part of your class, especially if you're doing like combined alchemical items.
Unless you just don't need a lot of them.
even as a mutagenist, I need a lot of them. So, you know, it's very important, because I gotta say, there's nothing better than in playing as an alchemist, me just in the middle of combat being like, my HP is low. Let me make a double moderate elixir of life and just restore all my HP with 3 actions. God. Or 2 actions. It's insane. So I really like Alchemist, but like, I didn't need all my intelligence, at least not at character creation.
Yeah, it'll bump up later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on ending the game with +5 in my int and my strength. So the only thing I hurt was the fact that I wasn't +4 as long as some people would have liked, and also I won't get to a +6 by the end of the game at level 20. Oh. You know, like that, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like not to say that it's not good, because like, yeah, if I had put int in early, then I would have more int for more of the game, because from levels 1 to 5 I would have 4, and then from levels 10 to 15 I will have 5, where the way I built 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 I had 3 +3, and then at 11 to 15 I'm going to have +4 instead. So I am missing out on a versatile vial and some other small little features for like 8 levels of the entire thing, which is not a small amount of time, but it's, you know, honestly, it's not that big a deal. It doesn't
If you're
matter.
doing other things, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just the only time it'd be like, I don't know if that's a right decision, is if you're going all in on like, yeah, more vials, and then you just made a bad decision and are doing something else that doesn't build into it. Like, the idea of like strength and intelligence for that, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you make strength like kind of your new key stat? Because you're building to go punch things. You're doing something different, but like, it's not bad, like a bad decision. It'd be a worse decision if you made charisma your key stat and then proceeded to do nothing charisma related.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's what I said. I'm not saying build bad builds. I'm not saying do things that don't make sense for your character. I'm just saying that if I'm playing a fighter who is not at the same plus modifier that every other fighter build is by 1 or 2 points, that doesn't make my fighter build bad.
Yeah, you know? If you have that idea where I have it often where it's like, this is a bit of a stretch. How do I make this work? How do I make this like function and like operate as cool as possible? You can look at it at the end of it and be like, wow, that's where you get the annoying phrase of like, you should have just played this class instead.
Yeah.
You're just a worse version of this class. But I didn't want to be that class.
No, I wanted to play this class with this mechanic.
Like that is, that's always the critique I don't like. I always hate that idea for character creation. But like, I'll optimize the weird idea and then look at it and be like, yeah, this is less optimal than if I want to play a cool paladin gunslinger, I could just play gunslinger. But I kind of want to just be a champion.
Yeah.
Like that's just a different way of it. Because someone also told me that when I was saying like my plan for Necromancer, I'm going to make an OC arc weapon gunslinger. Like I'm going to find a way to make that work. And then someone's like, you should just play gunslinger. That's not going to work really well. It's like, I don't care. Like, shut up. I'm going to find this more fun. I want to punch a skeleton into a shotgun. Like, what do you not understand?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, it's... right, this is why... if anything will push me to Cosmere, it's the Pathfinder players. I understand, and I do see the comments of a lot of people who agree with me, and I love you all for it, right? You know, and like I respect the people who prefer playing a dungeon crawl game, right? Like, I think that's more of a board game than a role-playing game. And if you say, well, I can have good role-playing moments while dungeon crawling, maxing, it's like, well, yeah, you can role play, you can talk in character and do all that kind of stuff, but I want mechanically the role play to be good for my character. You know, I want my character to do things. It's like the revival of the stupid debates of Paizo hates wizards because they don't do good single target damage has come back due to the battle mage in Battle Cry.
Yeah, like they do though. I hate Pathfinder players. Y'all don't understand wizard. I'm gonna be so for real. I've heard endlessly those critiques of wizard damage is bad. Oh, there's single character damage is bad. No, it isn't. You don't know what you're doing. Like, it is so fucking easy to do so much damage as wizard and do it well. Paizo is so good to casters. I
will say their single target isn't that good, but that's not the point of a wizard.
It's not the point, but I could go and grab a bunch of single target spells that do some good old damage. Do I have to be a little high level for it? Yeah, I have got to be a little higher level. But like, I would not say that they're bad at it. I would say like you're better off firing a fireball or something, or not even fireball. Fireball's not my favorite wizard spell. It's chain lightning. I think chain lightning is probably my favorite wizard spell. It's just insane. That's how you get good damage, guys. Yeah. You pick better spells. I hate just the wizard arguments people have where they're like, wizards are bad, wizards are treated badly. They're fine. They function really well.
Well, and
I think they're my favorite casters.
The worst part is people are like, wizards are bad because bad damage. Is damage the only thing that matters to you in a role-playing game with exploration? Is a class only good based on how good its damage numbers are? Because I'm going to tell you now, you're bad at role-playing games. If that's how you're playing. There's so much more that happens, and there's so many really, really good spells that make a lot of the game easier. You get more out of it, and you're just better at it. And all at the cost of your single target damage is a little worse than a fighter's.
Yeah, like, cool, man. I'm gonna let the fighter do the single target damage. Whoa. Like, that, it's always what gets me is that point of like, yeah, because 100%, wizards, if they're not, they're for casters, like, they don't do as much damage. There's a lot of other options you can take. There's a lot of different like routes you can take a wizard. You can go full debuff wizard. You can go full buff wizard. You can play a lot of these playstyles that isn't pure damage, some of which are probably better for your party. And maybe It's crazy. Maybe you should count single target damage that you directly supported as your damage. Because, like, if you buffed the barbarian and then debuffed an enemy and the barbarian crits and kills it, you get half points. That's an assist in a first-person shooter. So, like, that counts. And it's also what gets me of, like, wizard damage is bad. It's just factually fucking wrong. If you build all damage, like I did, you can do it so fucking easily. I hate the Pathfinder fans. I'm gonna like, so I can soak up all the ill will. I'll take it if
Nah, this is something I'll say with my full chest. I've said it many times. There's so many people who don't understand how tabletop works, in the Pathfinder space especially. You know, not everyone. Totally, I have a lot of people who comment.
There's a lot of chill normal people.
But like, to me, it's just like, if the only thing you can imagine doing in a tabletop game is combat, you just leave such a hollow life, because there's so much more interesting things in the tabletop experience. Like, I played Baldur's Gate, right? The third one, obviously.
Yeah.
But Baldur's Gate is an amazing game, and yes, having a really good combat build is really good. But when I played my Warlock and I went like full like spooky tome, Pact of the Tome Warlock and everything like that, there were so many times that I could use some spells to do things that other characters just couldn't do. Like using in the second chapter, underneath the inn, there is you can go into the basement and you can see like a chest on the other side of this wall, through some grates that you can't normally get to unless you go through like this whole little fight part with all these really nasty enemies that are kind of a bitch to fight.
Yeah.
I used Misty Form with my Warlock, went to the other side because you can go through those bars in Misty Form, and just open the chest. And then I used my other spell slot and just came back and short rested and was fine. It's like,
yeah.
And I love stuff like that. And that's all over. We said not everyone. Not
everyone. There's a lot of chill people, and like the vast majority of them are here. Like, that's always how it is. I always, whenever I say Pathfinder fans, always what I am picturing in my head are the people on the Reddit who make a post saying, is such and such actually good? Is this bad? And it's like, all right, let me read this write-up. And then it's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever read. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how the game operates, how the class is meant to operate, how a real game played by human beings operates. And it's stupid. I'm happy that there are people on the Reddit who are normal that comment like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it needs to be said a lot to these write-ups. But that's what I always picture, is that type of Pathfinder fan.
Yeah, right. No, so our hatred and our spite is mostly towards people who will say you should just play a fighter rather than a champion, because a fighter is a better heavy armor fighter.
You should just play the game in a less fun way. Like, I don't care if the math is a little tighter. I'm going to do what I want. Yeah.
In fact, if you've ever said at any time, you should play this class over this class because bigger number, then yeah, then we can't be friends.
I hope it's something you've said in your far past and haven't said it since. But yeah, it's I've been friends with many min-maxers. To an extent, I am also a min-maxer. But it's the real sin in my head comes when you try to enforce that on other people. If you try to be like, no, the way I make stuff is better though, you should do it my way. That's always my like, no, fuck you. Like, you're being a dickhead, go away.
Okay, and I'm gonna say something as well. I don't think you're a min-maxer, because there's a difference between an optimizer and a min-maxer, right? Because you have to play games that let you actually min-max. And like, I played some of those games. They're the kind of games where you find the trick in the system to nerf a stat you have really, really low, and then suddenly you take like a series of features or abilities or whatever, and now you can just do anything in Slay God. I don't think you've ever made a character so... No, that's not true. You play
Not on
D&D.
purpose. On D&D, you have to do it, kind of.
Well, yeah, but even in Anima, right? Your character was good. You were nowhere near the min-maxer level in Anima, though.
I could have made those characters significantly worse, and with Arthur, I knew how to make him worse.
Yeah, but
and I
you
purposefully didn't. Like, that's the
that's the thing. That's not you're not a min-maxer. You're an optimizer, which is fine.
Yeah.
But a real min-maxer, like, I had a player in Anima who took very low mana. They didn't have a lot of mana, and they put all their points in other places. In exchange, they found a series of abilities and things that allowed them to generate mana in other ways. Oh yeah, also, they didn't take a good magic projection score because they found a way where you could just spend a lot of extra mana to get a high, like an insanely high projection score, just automatically. And then they found all these little gimmicky ways to just get a lot of like mana shards and mana things and anything like that to artificially inflate their really low mana pool. And so effectively, they just had insanely good mana and an insane magic projection without putting any of the points necessary into it.
Yeah. Like, that is always the main bit. And also, I'll say, like, let me double check name. Stormlord, like, if you have to ask the question, you're fine. If it's something you like can look at, and are also earlier have already said, like, numbers are subjective, you're fine. You're not the problem. The only game recently that I can think of when it comes to like a min-maxing, like that exact style of min-maxing, is Fallout New Vegas. Because I love that game to death. I will play it endlessly, and I've been replaying it with a different mod pack that's been fun. But in that game, there is a statistically correct way to make your character, which is always like a difference of like 5 skill points distributed differently, of like, these skills need to be 5, these skills, or this skill's 7 if you're doing this skill's 5 if you're doing this. But the one bit is exactly like that, is charisma. PSA to anyone playing New Vegas, charisma needs to be a 1, because there's no point in having that stat in charisma. It does literally nothing in the game. There's a total of like 2 charisma checks in the game. Because all you do is you have charisma be 1, you put all those numbers in different, more important stats, and then you level up speech and barter. And now you're, essentially, you have a high charisma again. And it takes like 2 levels to do. So, it's the only game I'll do it to. And I think the kicker is that it's a video game, so it's not affecting other people.
Well, I mean, even if it wasn't, like, to be fair, right? Sometimes a game can just be designed poorly to use a stat. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't... something like that makes a ton of sense, right? If charisma legitimately doesn't help in most situations because you can just level the skills, then yeah, obviously, why would you? Like, that makes no sense to do. That's just
it's
a game design thing,
don't
though.
Matter. Yeah, it's a I don't know what happened with Obsidian, but they forgot to put in charisma checks, and they're all speech checks. And then even though like the handful I can think of that actually make you do like charisma 7 checks can be bypassed in different ways. It's like, it doesn't even make that big of an impact.
I hate the Stormwind fallacy, by the way. I'm looking into it real quick, trying to get the exact quote.
I feel like I've heard that once.
Yeah, it's just a tabletop thing. Okay, so the Stormwind fallacy is just the idea that just because I'm not min-maxing my stats makes me a better roleplay. Which just because one optimizes his character mechanically does not mean he cannot also roleplay well. Just because a character plays his character well does not mean he cannot be optimized. Is the Stormwind fallacy.
Yeah.
Which is true to an extent, right? Just because you're playing an optimized character doesn't mean you can't roleplay. That's true. But if I want to mechanically interact with narrative elements, that doesn't mean me investing in non-combat things in order to do so is committing the Stormwind fallacy, right? Yeah. And me complaining that a game or that people look at a game as a thing of only combat and with little emphasis towards the exploration or narrative parts is also not committing the Stormwind fallacy, because the whole point of the Stormwind fallacy is just to defend min-maxes for saying combat is the number one priority for stats in the game, which is just wrong.
If anything, like, just from the little bit I was reading, it also kind of just reads which is like a point we've made in different ways of like, because like just you pointing out, like I fall more into the optimization category. I will optimize my character, but like I'll role play, and I'll do it in many different ways to optimize what I want the character to do. And because I've heard it, and it's the attitude that happens when it's like the split of I'm a role play heavy player, I'm a fighting heavy player. It's like, oh, then I guess you tank your effectiveness in this, and you tank your character in this way for the numbers. When it's like, no, you can't just do both of those. I can make a character super effective in combat and also roleplay the fuck out of them and like play a very narrative game. Yeah. It's not an exclusionary point. But like any point made on the internet, it probably gets absolutely like butchered like through people using it. Yeah. Especially using it disingenuously.
And the thing about the whole thing is it's the idea, right, that people think that stats are so necessary in the whole game idea that having bad stats is bad, right? Like, it can be a part of your narrative for your character that your character is bad at a thing and progressively gets better over the course of your story. And that's the whole point of your character. That's a valid story to tell. That's a thing. Why do you think people play soul level 1, broken club builds like it's a build in Souls games, right?
Yeah.
Does the fact that they're not playing an optimized build mean that they're playing the game worse? No. If anything, they're playing the game better because they have to, out of necessity, because otherwise it doesn't work. And the same thing kind of applies in TTRPGs, right? Where, yeah, it can be a statement of your roleplay capabilities if you never invest in more narrative-based mechanics, but only in combat mechanics, but you still roleplay and have a very good storytelling ability. That's a show of your skill in that direction, sure. But that doesn't mean people who invest in those things and use those as a part of their roleplay are any worse off overall just because they're worse in combat, I hate the Stormwind fallacy because it doesn't make sense in the TTRPG space whatsoever. It's a bad example of like a unrealistic scenario of someone saying you are playing an optimized character or you're playing a min-max character, you can't have a good story, right? A reasonable person wouldn't make that assumption. And
it makes sense that this originated from a forum, because I can't really picture somebody in real life that you're friends with trying to say that to you, because it just doesn't make sense.
And also, the Stormwind fallacy is completely predicated on the part that the game doesn't care whether you invest in narrative-based elements or not. Yeah. I mean, that's true, but again, not reasonable. Like, it when you have niche cases determining like a whole thing, but whatever. But the thing is right, the reason why people make these arguments and these complaints in the first place are because they invested in charisma, right? Where charisma was a dump stat for many years, because all charisma was good for was talking to characters. And it's kind of a failure of the systems that they don't provide reasons for having non-combat related stats or abilities. You know, which is just kind of a sad fact of the matter is, if the game doesn't require you, like, for instance, I would never invest in charisma or use any charisma based skills if I knew I was never going to use them in a game.
Yeah, then there's no point.
If the game just specifically never had a need for those stats to come up, I wouldn't do it. It doesn't matter what the roleplay is or what my character has. I wouldn't do it, because the whole point of me investing in stats in a game in the first place is the intent to use them. You know? So it's not just an idea of, if you invest in charisma, you don't min-max. You know? It's, you have an intent of use for these mechanics in some way or form. I don't know how we got into this conversation. Well, kind of, I know. But, like, this is supposed to be about talking about how awesome Starfinder is. And it just... Why can we not just have good things? The Pathfinder Paizo space. Why do we always have to have these conversations when it comes up because someone doesn't like a number somewhere in a thing?
Yeah, it's also the sad bit of, like, it's if this thing wants to be, like, addressed in some way for the community, it's just like there needs to be a big cognizant shift, honestly, to ignore, like, the people doing this, and just to kind of shift away. Because I think the Pathfinder community, if they want to have this do the same thing but do it better, can hit the vibe of, like, the good vibe of, oh, we're really knowledgeable of our game. If you ask a question, you're going to get a lot of help. If you want to do a thing, you're going to get so much help. It's just really needs to disincentivize the vibe of the actuallys, the kind of very aggressive correction that occurs, because people will play things differently. People will, like, get things slightly wrong. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't actually matter.
Yeah, and no worries, Stormlight. It's totally not your fault. It's the Pathfinder community's fault, or I guess now the Finder community at this point.
It's also barely on you. You just have a name that's similar that was, like, riffed on. Like, it's not even... You just got Storm in the name. It's fine.
Yeah. It was just an interesting point to talk about.
Yeah.
But
I'll shit on the people I don't like in the Pathfinder community till the cows come home. I think it's funny to be angry at them.
Yeah, I agree. I try not to. I don't in my comments. I let them say their piece and go, because in all honesty, like, not to be a little egotistical here, but I have a very, very strong grasp of the TTRPG, like, overall design and how it's played. I've been playing it for years. I've been running it for years. I think about it all the time. We talk philosophy here on the channel all the time. I think I have a really good grasp of, like, what makes tabletop generally fun, and a general understanding that definition is different for everyone. If people are willing to argue with me on these kind of things, more often than not, they don't have the same amount of experience or overall know-how about tabletop in general. They don't address the kind of things that happen in tabletop games, and they just don't really think about it in ways other than just what's like surface level. For a lot of people out there, performance in combat matters more because combat is the only part of the game they really care about. They don't care how their group climbs a cliff to get to a cave. They don't care how they convince the king to fund their adventure so they can go and do things. They don't care about the interesting politics in a world setting and how they can kind of influence that and get in on that. That's just the stuff they're not thinking about. So obviously they're going to have a very strong impression or a strong idea of what they think is good and not good. But as someone who's played as many games as I have and who's played the whole spectrum, I've played dungeon crawls. I've played games where we barely had combats at all. I've played many games where we barely rolled dice at all. I've played super number crunchy games as much as, super rules light games. At the end of the day, the whole reason why TTRPGs are a thing in the first place is they're a narrative story that you can tell with your friends while also playing a game at the same time. The game is no more important than the story it's in. If you are just wanting to play the game, then honestly, there's some just good dungeon crawling board games out there that I'm sure you would enjoy more, because they're better designed for that kind of thing. Go play Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven's a really good game where you don't really get narrative choices and you don't really need to. Everything is just numbers on a sheet anyway for you getting your stronger character at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So when someone comes up to me and says, I watched your class tier list video, you put fighter in D tier or whatever I put it in, or C tier, I think is what I put it in. I don't respect your opinions because fighter is obviously a good combat class. I'm just like, you obviously didn't watch the video then, because I said in the videos, fighter's an S tier class in combat, and if that's what you care about, that's what score it has.
Yeah.
It's not my fault you can't see as far or as deep as I can. Plain and simple.
Or it, like, very much in that case, like, you just didn't pay attention.
Well, yeah, for that for sure, but like,
so I love fighter because I think in Pathfinder the combat is the most fun part for me.
Yeah,
I love the game, but I think the difference is I'm not saying it's the most important. I'm saying it's the most fun for me. Like,
yeah,
that's always the kicker. That's always the kicker.
Well, and despite everything I've been saying, the thing is, I like the combat as much as everything else. Like, that's my whole stance. I love it when the game and the narrative and the game part meet at the middle. That's the part I like being in, where mechanically the game is just as interesting inside of combat as it is outside of combat. And like, I like Pathfinder because it's got really interesting combat. It's very complex, very deep, very interesting. Honestly, if I was only narrative based, I don't think I would call Pathfinder my favorite game, because honestly, Pathfinder doesn't really actually have a lot of narrative mechanics.
Yeah, not really. I wish it had more like actual stuff outside of combat instead of just like skill feeds. Like, I think it'd be really interesting to have more, because I think it's a fun option when a game adds you gives you that option of like this like out of this like not fighting build is as viable, and like even in combat. Like, I like that the Cosmere is kind of doing that, where they've stated that they wanted to make characters who aren't like wielding weapons as viable as somebody in the fray.
Yep. Yeah. And I love how like classes like the agent, or the paths like the agent, for instance, they can just force a plot die in kind of any check, any situation, which is really good in combat, because if you roll an opportunity in combat, you can use that to just crit, or they can use that out of combat in narrative situations as well, and it has more or less the same effect.
Yeah, it can be really good or really bad.
You know what? It's fair. I really do need to play Call of Cthulhu. It is on the list of games to try out. I really do need to
Yeah.
play it for sure.
From what I've heard, like it sounds sick, but also like I think I'd enjoy the game and some of the reviews I've heard of it because from what I've heard, the game itself is like super simple and like straightforward. It's very fun, but it's like not crazy, not tough to learn. I've heard of GMs who like Call of Cthulhu is the game they prefer to introduce new tabletop fans to instead of like something like D&D because it'll give you a really nice baseline understanding of a lot of stuff tabletop games do, and also the game rules. Who doesn't love some spooky Cthulhu shit?
I don't think it does because it doesn't play like a lot of other games. It's a roll under system, not roll two.
I mean, that's just what I've heard from someone who's not played it and heard people who talk about playing it, where they enjoy teaching it to new players, and from what they said, there are moments where new players catch on to things very quickly with Call of Cthulhu. Like it's very what's that word? It's just like easy to understand quickly.
Yeah, it's very comprehensible.
It's not simple or like overly simplified. It's just when you're looking at a lot of it, you're like, oh wait, this makes sense.
And and also this whole conversation as well. People just get in their mind when you say things like combat isn't the only thing in the game, that when you play characters who don't do combat whatsoever. Like, it's just the weird human brain thing where it's just like, I don't do this, so it means I do the opposite, which is not the case. And like, just because I'm saying you don't need to min-max your combat numbers doesn't mean I'm saying you should play a non-combat character. I'm saying you can play a combat character who is pretty good in combat, but just not optimized 100% or mid-maxed better. Optimized, yeah, sure, but mid-maxed not necessarily to do the utmost amount of damage or things.
Having played a lot of characters very optimized for combat, there's a lot of times I think it would be cooler if I could switch out one or two of these feats for like a really interesting out of combat feat still for the class. Because, like, I'll be real, there's a lot of feats that are like, 2 action and you do this, like, action this. You are not using all of those consistently.
Yeah.
Like, by the end of the game. And theoretically, if you had that switched out for something you were doing outside of combat, that's probably a net benefit for your character. It's just Pathfinder doesn't have a lot of those. I think it should have a lot more. And that's what, like, if I got any influence on Paizo, that'd be a thing I'd start doing. Of just like, let's make some feats that aren't combat related. Let's make some stuff outside of it. Just if people want them.
Yeah, I would say, hey, Paizo, make skill feats. Make more skill feats, please.
Skill feats that also make them a little easier to get, other than just, skill feat stuff. And the other ways you can. But, like, just more options of using skills in interesting ways that aren't just in combat.
Yeah. I just, because like we just got done playing my game, the 333, and my game, I mean, we didn't do a lot of combat, to be fair. I wanted to do more, and it has a lot of combat stuff, but my game, from everything we played, was mostly non-combat feats and abilities and everything like that, and the players were having a really good time with a bunch of feats that just were not combat orientated. So it can be done. You can make things that are just interesting. That's a good question. We should actually answer a question about Starfinder before ending stream.
Good point. I was already scrolling to find the skill feats. Oh, I'm perfectly on it. I found the table. It's 211.
211. Okay, I was pretty close.
I just kind of luck clicked the scroll bar and boom, got it.
It does not feel like they really have that many different than Pathfinder. I'm going to be honest.
Battle medicine, catfall, candy acumen, combat climber. Those sound familiar.
There's going to be a lot here that are going to be very familiar.
Combat hack? Wait a second. Combat is a skill feat.
Oh, to be fair, skill feats, there are a good amount of skill feats that work specifically in combat. Like intimidation feats.
This is kind of sick. I don't feel like it'd come up in our game, but I like the vibe of this a lot. Deadlift, a level 1 athletics feat. For 1 minute, you can carry 4 more bulk than normal before becoming encumbered.
Yeah.
6 at expert, 8 at master, 10 at legendary. When you end the feat, you become fatigued for 10 minutes. Oh yeah, there's another one. Dive for cover. You leap, land prone, and immediately take cover for an action.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that one. They have an interesting general feat called Barricade, where it looks like you can spend... It's probably 2 actions, right? No, 1 action. So you spend 1 action, you use nearby junk, and you create a barrier that provides lesser cover for you and 1 other ally. And with that single action, you also use the take cover action. Oh, no, it says then you can take... Oh, okay, never mind. So you can create cover that gives you lesser cover, and then you can take cover behind this and give you standard cover.
Oh, shit. Okay. I feel like this is how you design a really cool skill feat. It's Fool the Camera. It's a level 7 feat. You have to be a master in computers. You know how to fool security cameras and tech items that confer special senses, such as scopes. Whenever you use the avoid, notice, hide, or sneak actions, you're always considered to be taking precautions against special senses from tech items. In addition, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to your stealth DC to avoid notice by cameras or technological hazards. I like that. That immediately kind of sets in. I am a sneaky character with like good intelligence and tech knowledge because I'm gaining that tech knowledge specifically to bypass it. I think that's how you make a good skill feat.
Yeah, mostly from what I'm saying, it seems like the standard fare skill feats we got from base Pathfinder. So
yeah, there's just going to be a lot of different things based, because you're in a sci-fi setting.
No, not even really. Computer skills were like the only real difference ones. Most of the other skills were the same.
Piloting, at least. There's some piloting like there's one skill I like here. It's level 15, but it's fly anything, where you can use your piloting instead of crafting to repair a part of vehicle, and you're just like way quicker to latch on to understand it.
Well, yeah, that's because that's also just a new skill.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's very similar to Pathfinder, but there's the obvious differences because there's some skills are different, and like there's some new stuff here.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like most of the other skills are pretty much all roughly the same. Except for obviously the new skills, but yeah. So.
Oh shit! Devin's gonna be happy. There's a cooking skill feat. It's called Seasoned.
I think Seasoned was introduced in Pathfinder as well.
Oh, if it was, that's sick. It's gives you +1 circumstance bonus to checks to craft food and drink. I like a good skill feat that is essentially a constant like slight number bump for a thing like your character would have to specially mention. Like my character's a chef, and like besides all like I can be trained in the tools, I can be trained in this thing. I'm role playing. I'm good as a chef. I also like having a slight thing on your character sheet being like, yeah, you get a bonus to doing this specific action. I like that. Those are the skill feats I like a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, see, and what would make Pathfinder, honestly, right, like my favorite system of all time, was if there was a whole cooking subsystem that could give you different bonuses based on your cooking. There is cooking in the game. There are cooking items that can give your group special benefits, but it's more just items that give you benefits that you can just buy in places and stuff like that. I would like an actual subsystem of cooking where I need to find certain parts or I need to perform like a series of skill checks in certain ways to make cooking interesting, because like
it'd be sick for other players because I would never interact with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate crafting mechanics, but
and I'm like I said, what would make it truly my favorite system wasn't there a cooking thing in Kingmaker? I don't think so. Maybe there was a camp mechanic thing. I can't remember. We haven't interacted with it, and we're like a quarter of or like halfway through Kingmaker.
There's a skill feat. I could become a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
A virtuistic performer.
Yeah.
You get a +2 bonus to a specialty, but you have to pick your specialty. I like the one that here that's called oh yeah, it's acting, comedy, dance, but I just like comedy. One of the examples is general buffoonery. GM, I have +2 to buffoonery.
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not running the Kingmaker game, so I can't say for sure. But
Yeah, it could be a thing y'all just didn't touch. I know there's like you pick roles and shit in that game.
yeah, Kingmaker's not well done. The adventure is
video game's
fine.
cooler.
The adventure is fine.
I think it sounds like it would make a sick video game, but like I don't know about the tabletop game. Like,
I mean, it is a
of
sick video game. Kingmaker is very fun.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't played Kingmaker. I've only done Wrath of the Righteous. But like all those mechanics that like you've told me that are a little slow and kind of boring on the tabletop side would go so hard for a CRPG because it's a video game that I can like sit there and work through on my own.
Witch Warper, I haven't looked into much since the full release, but from what I remember looking at the pre-release stuff and kind of looking at some of the stuff here, it looks really good. It looks very much the space caster.
I love a lot of the stuff I have read. It's very cool. It's if you want to play your space wizard, like this sounds like it's the way. And all the actual feats and specialties for it, I think are super cool. I love the anchor concept for it too. You're just like you got some weird thing that makes you strange in the universe, and then you have something holding you into reality. It's cool. It's magic that's like more reality warpy, and that's what you want in a cool sci-fi game.
Yeah, I really love the Witch Warper overall design of making use of their warp reality ability to just do zone control super hard.
Yeah.
And they just create zones where they just alter physics, which is very, very cool. So like it's like a spellcaster. It's got 4 spell slots for most of its levels, which is really good.
Is it an arcane or a cult caster?
I think it's arcane.
It makes sense. I see that it has the 4 different types of casting like spell types. So I'm like, oh shit, what are they? Both based. Yeah, I was like picturing it could also matter. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So it depends on which anomaly you pick. As someone who's gonna play precog, occult. Also, I like that precog gets piloting as a skill bonus. I can do a little Warhammer shit. Hell yeah.
I mean, I love the idea that the Witch Warper literally is like warping space when they're using magic. Aesthetically, super sick. You know what? Honestly, Witch Warper might be the one I do next. I don't know. Maybe I'll do
That's
Witch
what
Warper
I'm doing
next.
You can't do that next. That's what I'm doing.
No, we're making different kinds of videos. And sorry, I'm making a video on Witch Warper next.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna steal my claim, and I also, when I said that, I was like, "You're probably GMing this." I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be playing character. I'll kind of play a character in Cosmere though, but
yeah.
But no, not for Starfinder. I don't feel the need to. And Starfinder, that's also one of the kind of games that's a lot harder to have a GM PC because there's just so much stuff going on and you have to keep track of so many things that like I just don't think I could really run a character simultaneously. Cosmere feels like it would be a lot easier to do so.
A lot easier. I mean, narrative stuff is always fun. Oh, telekinetic strangulation. You can Darth Vader choke somebody.
Yeah.
That's an occult spell.
I like that. That's kind of one of the things I like about space magic more than normal magic is space magic feels more like literally warping reality. Like it feels tangibly more like your character is doing something that is tearing at the fabric of space and time. Like that's such a really cool aesthetic where like fantasy magic very typically is just like fire. I can make things because I can choose to make things, where like space magic is always like I'm changing the laws of physics in this space and it's out of control and it's wild and bad things can happen, and like that's actually why I do like how magic is done in Warhammer.
Yeah, it's you're pulling it like energy from it, and it's literally like will reality bending by pulling in the reality where thought is real. Also, real quick, I have to check on this spell. There's a spell called New Game, and the description of it is something.
Yeah, they do have
It's a
like
10th level.
tech related spells, which is really fun.
It's not even that it's like that. It's a 10th level spell, and it sounds insane. Okay. You have access to a computer with a vid game installed on it. Is a 3-action duration a minute. You draw creatures into a video game, digitizing their bodies and minds, including equipment to play in virtual reality. The genre of the game and effect of the spell depend on who you target when you cast it. If you cast a spell targeting yourself and a number of willing allies, the targets enter a relaxing slice of life social simulation game. You can perform up to 1 hour of activities for the duration of the spell. If you cast a spell targeting yourself or one willing ally and one enemy, targets enter a PvP game and are instructed to fight using their current initiative. Yeah, so you force people into like a 1v1 fight. If you cast a spell targeting one enemy, the target enters a PvE or puzzle game that traps them until they can complete the game. Once per turn, target can spend 1 action to attempt a computers or perception check against your spell DC to escape the game. Teleportation magic doesn't work. Huh. What the fuck?
That sounds pretty fun.
That's such a like really terrifying power to have. I'm good. It's a 10th level, of course, but goddamn. All the 10th level spells feel properly insane, and I would hope they would be in a sci-fi. Oh shit! I just saw the art.
Maze spell, yeah.
I also found a spell. It's one of the sickest art because it's the Witch Warper iconic. Phantasmal Fleet. Where you create a phantasmal fleet of ships 1,000 feet overhead, bombarding the ground with laser fire. And the art is so cool. Anyone who has the book, page 351.
Yeah.
So cool.
To be fair, and like I said before, sci-fi is not typically my thing. If anything, I prefer like modern dark fantasy. I think is the genre I like the most. I'm very much a Constantine Dresden Files enjoyer, personally.
I need to read Dresden. I've heard it's very good.
I haven't read it, but I did watch the TV show when it was a thing, and it was pretty good. And they have a TTRPG based on it as well.
Makes sense.
You're suddenly playing Doki Doki Literature Club. Horrifying.
Yeah.
That is actually terrifying. But I do love space tech. I can't wait for the Technomancer.
Yeah.
I want drones. Give me drones. Every game that has this kind of stuff, I have to have drones. I like tech. I think tech is super interesting, and like that's why Lancer is super cool, because it's pretty much all just tech. Very, very cool stuff. And like I'm a big mech player kind of fan, not like mech anime fan, but mech player. Which reminds me, I need to go back and play Armored Core again.
Oh, I've been feeling the same way. I keep being like, I should play Armored Core again. That game is so good.
It's so good.
Whenever I have like the option to play some tech thing, I always like playing the like really aggressive hacker character, the guy who's like tinkering away, and then like, oh, your armor, I'm gonna like fuck up your cool power armor. It's now like your one joint is twisting the other way, because I'm forcing a malfunction. That's the vibe I really like.
Yeah, that's why I want to go back into Cyberpunk and play hacker.
You'll have a great time, especially because Phantom Liberty, one of the rewards is a really horrifying quick hack.
Yeah.
You shove a person's cyberware and like basically their mind through the black wall.
Yeah.
And then it's, they're ripped apart spiritually, electronically by the rogue AI that exists on the other side of the black wall.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. So yeah, you'll have a great time, and the game is good now. So
yeah, I liked it before. I played it a good amount before, but
yeah, it's the problem is now that I can say that I liked the game when it came out like bugs despite. It was really fun. Now because of what I've played with the latest updates for it, old Cyberpunk was bad.
Yeah.
It sucks in comparison to what we have now. This shit rules.
I don't know, to be fair, I honestly didn't have that buggy of a time with it initially, so.
I just had like a visual bugs. Like the one that kept happening was the chip glitch malfunction effect wouldn't leave until I reset the game. Like it was nothing that broke my experience. It just ran a little bad and had weird visual quirks. But like it is just the part I enjoy about the game where now you can have builds. You can like make a character build instead of what it was before, which was like every skill was pretty simple. It was pretty simple and kind of boring. Now it's like, no, you are playing a sword wielder. You are playing a sword wielder.
Yeah.
Like you have all these really cool toys to play with now. Throwing knife stealth build is so fun.
Yeah. But we've come to the end of the stream, and I need to get to work because I have another Battle Cry video, because Guardian actually is really good. I think Guardian, they fixed a lot, which, to be fair, I said they were going to make it good anyway. They were probably just testing some things. And guess what? Yeah. They were. Guardian, Guardian, by the way, if you want to play a Juggernaut heavy character who just, like, your whole thing is knocking characters around like they're little toys in front of you, that's what the Guardian plays like a lot. So
I'm pumped, and depending on when you release it, I'll listen to it on Saturday when I go to work, because I am so pumped for the Guardian. I need to play it so badly. I want to do the Juggernaut build. I want to do unarmed, just running into things and punching them. I want to close.
You know what's so crazy about that? They have a lot of unarmed stuff in their build too.
That's what I've heard. I'm so pumped.
So yeah, it's surprising amount of unarmed stuff for the Guardian, which is crazy.
I want to be the weapon. I don't want to wield a weapon. I want to run into a person. Sounds so fun.
So if you want to stay up to date on all things Starfinder, Pathfinder, and Cosmere moving forward, plus whatever other games, I still need to get back to Fabula Ultima. I did buy the most recent book and need to get into those classes as well and look into them.
I forgot there's a new book.
Yeah. To be fair, it's probably not a book you would really like. It's the cozy home nature aesthetic classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
Mechanically, they're interesting though, but definitely not your aesthetic.
It. Nature.
But subscribe to the channel. Like, I don't know what happened, but our bots on the Discord stopped putting out the new videos.
I need to check it because I looked on the side of the webhook, and the webhook says it's working just fine.
Yeah.
So, and it clearly isn't. So I need to figure out what happened. At craziest, YouTube might have done a thing in the back end that I just need to reset the webhook and like remake it.
Yeah.
That's not hard. It just, I was peeking at that before stream because I saw the announcement.
So we need to get that fixed. So just keep checking on the channel. I am going to do my best to get at least a couple of videos out a week. Talking about all the new things, talking about the new characters, classes, and honestly, I want to know, let me know what you guys think about the new approach. No longer is it the why this is awesome and more just a my full on here's the good, here's the bad impression of the classes, which to be fair was kind of what I did before anyway, but now the vibe is just differently. And we got a lot coming out. I'm going to do the best I can, but you know, still a dad, still got a baby, and she takes a lot of time, but it is what it is. So Alex, anything you want to leave us off with before we head out today?
Yeah. If you are at all interested in lore content for a lot of the games that tabletop games especially, over my channel Glue Boy, I make those. I have a video coming out tomorrow morning on all of the lore on World War II and World of Darkness. It's just as dark and horrible as you'd expect. It's very fun, been working on it for a while, and yeah, I'm just posting away over there.
And honestly, we may have more coming out with Gen Con. We don't know what is exactly going to hit, and August and September are also going to be some big drop times for a lot of types of games, and I don't think the TTRPG space is going to be any worse off. And yeah, also, I am in a collaboration with Cosmere. I'm going to premiere tomorrow in a live play with some other content creators on their channel. So if you want to see me try out the Cosmere RPG, I will give a link. I'll give a link in the actual video that I mentioned it, because we thought it was going to be coming out when embargo dropped, but it ended up not. I'm also going to post a link to it in the Discord, so you can join our Discord down, linked in the description below. But with that, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.